Tonight I'd like to talk a little about daily life practice. And I'll speak about the cultivation of a wholesome, cheerful and serene inner attitude in our everyday life. As we know well, we don't have that much control over what life will bring us, what the weather is up to, how our work situation will develop, what will happen to our friends and our loved ones, how they will relate to us. It can turn from wonderful to awful any moment, and vice versa. Where we do have some choice, if we are aware and present enough, is with regards to how we will meet all these changing circumstances of life. As we all know, Dharma practice is that which enables us to have some influence on the inner attitude in which we meet life, and the inner atmosphere which we produce throughout our days. Perhaps we do our regular daily sittings at home every day, do some mindfulness, perhaps some calming of the mind. Then done, we check it off our list, done for today. I don't know if anyone does that, but sometimes it's about, I've done my meditation, so enough for today. But of course we know it might be that this is not enough, really. In fact, I'd like to take the risk of making a radical statement here at the retreat, such as this one. Perhaps what matters most in life and in our spiritual life has not that much to do with formal meditation. Maybe nothing. Maybe it's something much, much more important than meditation that really matters. I've met wonderful, wise and caring people who didn't know a thing about meditation. And I was very touched, very impressed. And of course, if meditation helps to deepen our wisdom in a down-to-earth, real way, fantastic. And I hope it does. If it makes us more compassionate, wonderful. If not, we might ask, what is it good for? There's a number of aspects or qualities which do make a difference in our life if we practice them. And here I would like to talk about 6 of them. There are many more, some equally important, but for now, let's look at these ones. The qualities I find relevant for the cultivation of a wholesome and cheerful mind state. Altruistic, compassionate motivation, generosity, equanimity, wise humor, non-complexity in terms of expectations and ideas about things, and number 6, gratefulness, appreciation and joy. And Carol has been talking about ethical conduct on Thursday. Joseph talked about wise speech last night. And I think both also very essential practice areas in our daily life, of course. Here I first want to look at an altruistic or a compassionate outlook in our life. This refers to an inner attitude which increasingly cares for the welfare of others and is a bit less concerned about one's own, or a lot less. And though this is not one of the easiest of all spiritual practices, I feel it is one of the most effective ones, powerful ones. Shantideva described this altruistic wish very beautifully. For all those suffering in the world, until their every sickness has been healed, may I become for them a doctor, a nurse, and medicine itself. May I be a guard for those who are protectorless, a guide for those who journey on the road. May I be a boat, a raft, and a bridge for those who wish to cross the water. I think it's very inspiring, but perhaps quite a bit away from our own capacity, at least from my own. And we often feel how much self-centeredness is the cause for inner narrowness. We sense the limitation of that mode of being. The American Zen teacher Yvonne Rand once said, "In the self-centered, egocentric mode, we believe to be this little piece of dirt around which the whole universe revolves." It's like a lack of self-appreciation, and then from that is this need to be at the center of things. One of the problems with this is that we have up to 7 billion centers of the universe, counting only the humans on this earth. Again, I think it helps to practice with small incidents. When we have a cold, when our train is late, when we don't get the job we wanted, when our partner leaves, might be a little bit bigger thing, when the tax bill comes and turns out to be higher than we thought, which it does quite often, I think then it is not that hard, it is not half as tragic and not really so irritating if we can keep things in perspective, if we can see it, for example, in relation to the rest of humanity. While we suffer from hay fever or some allergy, 6 people, mostly children, die per minute because they don't have access to clean water. It changes something in our perspective. Well, our train is 9 minutes late, or we're stuck in a traffic jam. There's innumerable people in this world who don't have access to transportation at all, or just don't have access. When our attention increasingly turns to others, our own pleasure and pain doesn't matter so much, becomes less important. In this way we unburden ourselves. I could say we begin to get out of our own way. And it creates inner spaciousness, and there's more light, there's more serenity, more ease. We can learn this attitude, and we can practice it. Maybe like parents who are willing and able to put the welfare of their children above their own more selfish interests, and realize it actually makes them quite happy. Or if the children are in a difficult situation, it makes them more compassionate. We can see all beings as our children, or as our close relatives, or as family. Shantideva wrote, "The childish are constantly concerned with themselves. The Buddhas at all times care for others. Just look at the difference between them." And we can spend just a few minutes every morning remembering what is good in the beginning, the altruistic motivation, as you did here in the morning with Rainer. And spend a few minutes every night remembering what is good at the end, sharing the positive energies and qualities generated, sharing them with all beings and dedicating them towards their freedom from suffering, as we did every night. It's not a vast thing we have to do, but to do this, maybe like 350 days a year, just in the morning, just in the evening, just in the morning, just in the evening. We remember more often, and sometimes it's the forgetting and the remembering that makes a difference. So an altruistic attitude creates a sense of inner spaciousness and of connectedness. The second quality, generosity, helps too. And though Carol spoke of it extensively, I'll touch on it again. Unlike the altruistic bodhicitta practice, generosity is not a difficult practice. But at times we can be so busy and concerned with what we can get out of situations for ourselves, what we could acquire or buy or gain or own in terms of money or in terms of materials or furniture, of clothes, of pleasures and fun, of entertainment, of cultural events, of books, of CDs, of videos, DVDs, or how we could get more in terms of attention, of affection, of respect, or honor, or status, or endless list of things I want for myself. That can be very trying and tiresome, and often not very wholesome, because the unwholesome opposite of generosity is at work. Desire, craving, longing, addiction, attachment, even stinginess. That's when there's an inner feeling of shortage. In this mode, there's a sense of inner poverty, independently of how much we actually have or own. And that's completely different when we are generous, when we're big-hearted, when we're open-handed, we're charitable, benevolent, hospitable, and tolerant. And that in itself is already a wholesome, happy, and serene attitude of life, whenever we are in that mode. And then there's a sense of connectedness and of bonding automatically when we're generous. We feel connected to those we have been generous towards, whether it's material things or attention or affection that we offer. Whenever we're generous, there's a sense of inner wealth and abundance. Whether we give money to a street musician, give a gift to a child, or pass on our knowledge, or just show someone the way, or offer a friendly hello, or be attentive to a partner, or send our entire fortune to Namibia, we feel abundance. If it's genuine generosity, we feel joy, we feel serenity and ease. And we plant the seeds of wholesome actions in our hearts. This is my favorite story, and I've told it so many times I'm always hesitant, but I just tell it again. There's 3 people who have never heard it. Apparently, happened some years ago. Supposed to be a true story. A golfer just had won a tournament, and he got a big sum of money as the first prize. And the money was paid out right there. And when he later on left the place and went to his car, a young woman with her baby approached him. She said, "Please help me. I have no husband, I have no job, I have no money, and my baby is very ill and needs treatment at the hospital." He was so moved, and he gave her his prize money right there. Next day, back at the club, the friends said, "You know, this woman actually is a swindler. Her baby isn't ill at all. It's perfectly healthy and well. He lit up and said, "The baby's well? Best news in weeks." This is generosity, metta. Some of you may be familiar with this radical verse about generosity from Buddhist text. It shows how much our thinking usually is upside down, really, and what the actual facts are. What the Buddha points at here starts to make sense when we begin to understand that it's the inner attitudes and tendencies of our hearts and minds which are responsible for our happiness and well-being, and not outer circumstances or our possessions or whatever. It's from the discourse requested by Ugra. And here's the text. What we give away is ours. What we keep at home is not ours. What we give away is of value. What we keep at home is of no value. What we give away, we don't need to protect. What we keep at home, we need to protect. What we give away causes no worry. What we keep at home causes worry. What we give away gives inexhaustible wealth. What we keep at home will be exhausted. What we keep at home leads to negativity. What we give away leads directly to enlightenment. The same statement, but much shorter, is on one of the CDs of the pop band Young Radicals. It says, "You get what you give." I think it's cool. In that respect, I've been very inspired by our Indian Vipassana teacher, Anakarika Munindra. Except for Buddhist books, he never had any possessions. His pockets had big holes. Whatever found its way into them was immediately passed on and shared. And that's no easy thing when you live in Calcutta among the very poor of India, which he did. And yet he was one of the most cheerful and easygoing people I've known. So there's altruistic motivation, there's generosity. Equanimity helps. So often we're plagued by reactivity, particularly in daily life. Constant attachment and grasping to what is pleasant is actually tiresome. Even in small things. Constant desire and craving and expectation for what may be pleasant in the future is tiresome. Constant aversion, irritation, anger, hatred against what's unpleasant or painful is so tiresome. Ongoing worry and fear of what possibly may be unpleasant or painful in the future is so tiresome. It's bad enough that we have to experience what is unpleasant and painful in life. We can't change that. Bad enough that pleasant experience keeps on changing and then disappearing, but to react in addition to it with unwholesome, unhelpful feelings, emotions, thoughts and actions, that's extremely tiresome. It's far from a wholesome, happy and serene way of living one's life. Here, equanimity, weise Gelassenheit, is the ultimate solution. Equanimity is the quality of heart and mind that makes inner freedom possible. Maybe that is inner freedom. The well-known Zen verse perhaps conveys a sense of it. Let the bird fly in the boundless sky of your equanimity. Free the fish in the bottomless ocean of your tolerance. It's really all about inner spaciousness. What does this equanimity or this inner balance consist of? It simply comes about through accepting and or letting go. It's acceptance or letting be of the undesirable, tiresome, unpleasant experience and situation. Sometimes we try letting go there, but then when it stays, it's letting be or acceptance that's needed. It's good to remember, if it doesn't go away. Sometimes people ask me, I'm trying to let go of this really difficult feeling, it doesn't go away. Try acceptance. It won't go away, but the problem is solved, okay? It's unpleasant enough when our colleague at work is unfriendly, when the coffee is cold, when the weather is wet and freezing. When in addition we produce anger, disappointment, and a bad mood, that's really not very helpful. Why do we keep on doing this? I'm not saying over and over again, but we do. Acceptance is the easiest and most practical solution. Accepting, problem solved. Of course we can lodge a complaint with the waiter if we think that's useful, but to get upset won't help in any case. Letting go. It's unpleasant enough when our friendly colleague leaves the job, when our exciting Saturday night is over, when the precious rose fades, when pleasant and beautiful things pass, when in addition we produce attachment, disappointment, grief. That's really not very helpful. It's amazing that we manage to do that quite sometimes. Letting go will be the easiest and most practical solution. Letting go, problem solved. We need to remember the possibility right in the moment and then do it. I often find it takes me a while, lack of mindfulness, or mindfulness not placed at the right place. Oh, I could accept, and it's over. We don't need to be deeply enlightened and profoundly equanimous to make our life wholesome, happy, and easy. But some equanimity definitely helps. And here's a description. It's from this famous text by the Tibetan Lama Sonam Tashi Rinpoche. I think he's a Lama in the West somewhere. He says, if you can sit quietly after difficult news, if in financial downturns you remain perfectly calm, if you can see your neighbors travel to fantastic places without the twinge of jealousy, if you can happily eat whatever is put on your plate, if you can fall asleep after a day of running around without a drink or a pill, if you can always find contentment just wherever you are, you're probably a dog. Altruistic motivation, generosity, equanimity. Wise humor can be helpful. So often we take ourselves dead serious. When everything works out the way we wish for, okay, then we're happy or cheerful. But sometimes not even then. We're so serious or grim or whatever that we forget that we're actually fine. I read that the Happiness Research Institute in London found out that the Bangladeshis are the happiest people in the world. Imagine. It's one of the absolutely poorest countries of the world. The Swiss are on place 50. We are among the 5 wealthiest countries of the world. Isn't that interesting? Even amazing. So being happy when we have what we need, that's one thing. But what when we have or get what we'd rather not have? Or when we don't have, when we don't get what we really would like to have? Can we smile? In a situation where we are in trouble ourselves? And I think here's where the art of wise humor comes in. Of course also equanimity, but humor can so much change. Because it allows us to create some distance to the situation which we're in. So we can see, compared to the universe, compared to history from the Big Bang to the final collapse of the cosmos, my momentary problem isn't really that enormous. I mean, it's enormous, but not that enormous. So humor, being able to laugh about oneself and about life, opens and enlarges our perspective. Humor at the cost of others excluded. Though often it's really quite funny. It's usually not exactly wholesome and wise. Wise humor, even about very serious things, like the fact of death and dying. Very wise statements have been made. Tucholsky, for example, said, I don't know if that works in translation, I'm going to miss myself terribly once I have died. And Woody Allen is more radical. He says, my relationship to death, I'm totally against it. Martin Luther, the great reformer, seems to have loved humor. He said, if God had no humor, I wouldn't want to go to heaven. And Lao Tzu said about the Tao, the all, the law, the universe, if one cannot laugh about it, it cannot be called the Tao. So altruistic attitude, generosity, equanimity, wise humor. An aspect that I find very important but can't name precisely is non-complexity or simplicity, maybe. Instead of complex demands, expectations, and attachments to our ideas of how things should be. In a way, it's the same point as the previous one, equanimity. It's mostly about the smaller things of daily life. I try to illustrate with examples. Vacation on the beach, on the ocean. Wonderful, finally, vacation is here. We fly there, whatever, we take the train there. Walk on the beach and find out that it is not the sand beach, it is gravel, kiesel. It happens some places. It wasn't mentioned in the brochure we got from the travel agent. It's kind of rather big kiesel. Are we free enough to say sand would have been nicer to play on, to lie on, but let's enjoy our vacation rather than having them ruined by a few square meters of gravel? And of course that never happens to us, but it happens to people. We expected a room with a view onto the ocean, it said in the brochure. We got one on the back, looking into a road busy with traffic. And we can't change the room because the hotel is booked out and the booking is non-refundable. Can we still enjoy our vacation? Or is it a little less good? Or really less good? Monday morning, tight full schedule. We count on the parking space that's usually still vacant at that time. Today it's all taken. Full, complete. Is this okay? Or is half of our Monday ruined? I know we should go by bus or by bicycle. We have a doctor's appointment. Usually there are about 3 or 4 people waiting. Today it's 11. It happens at my doctor's. Is that okay? Is it completely okay? We buy tulip bulbs. Red tulips. Spring comes, and what do we see? Yellow tulips have come up. On the package they were red. Yellow tulips are gross. Really ugly. All of spring ruined. Here's the story of the lawn and the dandelion. Supposedly pronounced dandelion. Levinson. A man who took great pride in his lawn found himself with a large crop of dandelions. The story must have come from England, where the perfect lawn was invented. He tried every method he knew to get rid of them. Still they plagued him. Finally he wrote to the Department of Agriculture. He enumerated all the things he had tried and closed his letter with the question, "What shall I do now?" In due course, the reply came, "We suggest you learn to love them." And perhaps you may think that this is exaggerated. That's why I want to read you a newspaper article. London. British travel agencies receive about 20,000 complaints a year from disappointed travelers. A newspaper article featured a number of apparently true examples, of which I tried to translate a few, and I don't know if they work in English. A newly married couple had been on safari in Kenya during their honeymoon. The husband blamed the travel agent for the fact that their wedding trip had turned out to be unsatisfactory. He wrote, "At our first visit in the wild park, we met the herd of elephants. After I had seen the ding-dong of that elephant bull, I felt completely inadequate." Took a while to find the right one. Another family, after a vacation on the seashore, complained, "No one had warned us that there would be fish in the water. Our children got very frightened." Another couple wrote, "We wanted to spend a few weeks at the seashore, but when we got there, we found that the whole beach was full of sand. This hadn't been mentioned in the brochure." A lady from Birmingham wrote after her trip to India, "No one had told me that almost every restaurant would serve Indian curries. It was awful." And the last one is easier to understand with some knowledge of world geography. A group of travelers from Great Britain who were vacationing in Jamaica got really upset about what they felt was unfair treatment. They wrote, "It took 9 hours for us to get home to England, while the Americans were brought home in just only 3 hours." It's not unfair. There are plenty of little things or not so little things in life. We have ideas on how they should be. We can even have ideas about cowbells. Cowbells during Dharma talks. Windows that should be closed on that side and stuff like that. We often don't even notice. And we have fixed ideas at work, on vacation with friends, when eating, with food, particularly with food, with our roommates, with our meditation teachers, driving in the traffic. How long do we hold on to our unfulfilled ideas of how it should be? 3 seconds? 3 minutes? 3 hours? 3 days? All life long? And how quickly can we let go and be at ease again? So for me, it's such an interesting area to practice, and it's the moment we remember it. We don't need concentration. We don't need all the things. We just need to see, blip, drop, accepting, letting go quickly, right away. Something we train here. makes life a lot easier, simpler, and more enjoyable. So altruistic attitude, generosity, equanimity, wise humor, non-complexity with regards to our ideas and expectations. Last one, gratefulness, appreciation, and sympathetic joy helps. Mudita, one of the most beautiful, most simple, and most pleasant practices. And opportunities for it arise constantly in our day. Someone is laughing. Someone is joyful. Anyone. Someone is friendly with someone else. Doesn't have to be us. Someone has been winning. Someone has success. Someone receives praise. Someone is healthy. Plenty of reason to rejoice. A person is generous. Someone is honest. Someone is wise or serene. Plenty of reason for appreciation. We have a comfortable house or apartment, or a just okay apartment. We have enough to eat. The sky doesn't fall on our head. All good reason to be grateful. The problem is that we forget. Just like John, the village priest and his rather cynical friend John are strolling through a beautiful snowed-in landscape. The priest looks around and exclaims in awe, "Look, isn't it wonderful how God had this lake frozen?" Whereupon John remarks, "And no big achievement in winter." The question is, do we take too many things for granted? So gratefulness, appreciation, rejoicing are extremely precious. The Dalai Lama says, if we can rejoice in the good qualities and deeds of others, we automatically take part in the powerful energy that radiates from these good qualities. And a quality of appreciation and sympathetic joy can be cultivated and practiced. Often it can be quite difficult for us to rejoice in others' happiness, goodness, because we ourselves may have quite a lack of genuine respect and appreciation for our own good qualities. Perhaps our Judeo-Christian Occidental cultural conditioning. Of course, the more we feel worthless at some deep level, the less respect and appreciation we have for ourselves. The more we'll be self-centered. We can't help it. But the more appreciation there is, more self-appreciation there is, the more we feel connected with life as a whole. That's why it's so important to work with self-appreciation. It's so much more uplifting than always judging ourselves. Rumi says or asks, when you go to a garden, do you look at thorns or at flowers? Spend more time with roses and jasmine. We can begin by reflecting on and then rejoicing in our own good qualities of heart and mind, and then do the same with those of others. As we do it, some of it every night at 9:30. I think it's important to be specific, to list qualities. We can think of our interest in life, in understanding ourselves and each other. Rejoice in the qualities we generate here. I've listed them before and I'll list them again. Investigation of reality, our patience, our perseverance. We just think of that for 15 days now. Enthusiasm, collectedness, our insights, our wisdom, our love and care, our compassion, our sympathetic joy and appreciation, generosity, trust, equanimity, and all that. They're fabulous qualities that all begin to radiate, to shine forth. Then we reflect on our own wholesome and positive deeds and actions. And maybe to write it down. I know I keep on saying that. Somebody made me do it, so do it. Makes a difference. Maybe 2 or 3 every day. 365 days. Examples. Maybe our efforts to care for our children, their education, so far. The work we do to support our family, supporting relatives, taking care of our old parents in various ways, or work that supports others in so many ways, as managers, as therapists, as teachers, as cooks, as bakers, as farmers, whatever. Even when we get the salary for doing it, depending on our motivation, if we're in the mode of supporting, giving, offering. It's wonderful qualities. To rejoice in all the small or big gifts we make, cakes and flowers, contributions of any kind. To rejoice in our sila, in our ethical integrity and conduct. Rejoice in the intention not to kill or to harm beings, not to steal. Rejoice in our sensibility and clarity in intimate relationships. Sensibility in dealing with drugs, with alcohol, with money, with power. Rejoice in our honesty. There's plenty of reason for respect, for appreciation, for joy, for oneself. Rejoice in the fact of doing retreats, retreats like this one, or outside of the retreat. Rejoice in reading and studying Dharma books out of interest in spiritual growth, or being concerned with human rights, writing letters to Amnesty if that's what you care for, political initiatives for social justice, for peace, work in the neighborhood. So many things, or simply being friendly with our difficult neighbor, or being friendly with our friendly neighbor. To rejoice in that. I mean, we could be unfriendly with our friendly neighbor. Encouraging others, praising others. Millions of reasons to appreciate oneself. And then we find it easier to do the same with respect to others, appreciating their wholesome positive deeds and actions. To make it a regular practice. So reflecting on good inequalities, reflecting on good actions. And next to reflect about our own happiness or happinesses, well-being or success in various areas, our good fortune. To rejoice in it, to appreciate it. Then again to do this with others' happiness, with others' well-being, with others' success. We're often simply not used to see it. It's unfamiliar to us. It's easier to see suffering and respond with compassion than to see happiness and respond rejoicing, except maybe for people who are very close to us. There we know how to do it. So first we can rejoice in the more worldly things, maybe good family or relationship situation, or good job, or material ease, or political freedom we can all rejoice in. Health, plenty of reason to rejoice. Then we could look at the Mangala Sutta, the discourse by the Buddha on blessings. It's on what is valuable and beneficial in life. And many of the inequalities we've seen before are mentioned as special blessings. And then it goes on saying the greatest blessings are to be content and grateful, to hear the Dharma at the right time, to deeply understand the noble truth of suffering and its end, to realize liberation, the unconditioned. This is the highest blessing. Heart and mind unshaken by worldly states, sorrowless, stainless and secure. This is the highest blessing. Those who live in this way are everywhere unshakable and find well-being everywhere. Theirs is the highest blessing. Maybe we can simply follow the advice of my Tibetan teacher, Tsoni Rinpoche. He says, be happy without reason. It's all a matter of practice. There are all ways of cultivating a wholesome and happy attitude of ease, serenity in our daily life. And we simply need to actually do it.